Hello, welcome to the inaugural episode of Tickling the Void, a Shawnee Boy podcast with me, Shawnee Boy. I know everybody's got a podcast, you know, my gran's got a podcast and she's dead. It's just her mate Geraldine every Thursday night getting the Ouija board out. Is that Margaret, can you tell us what you think about the P. Diddy situation, Margaret? Oh, it's N-I... Right, oh, how did you get up there with that attitude? What are we going to be talking about? Well, it's going to be, I'm just going to keep going with this because this is quite nerve-wracking, right? I'm just going to be honest about that. I'm a wee bit nervous for starting this because it's different from what I usually do. I'm usually reading lines from a script and, dancing about in front of a green screen with wigs on. So sitting down in front of a camera and just rambling's a bit odd for me, but we're just going to power through, I think, because I need to get this out the way. I need to get this first episode out the way so that we can move on and get on to bigger and brighter things and hopefully have a couple of guests in if I can get them scheduled, because scheduling's an absolute nightmare. So I just want to start off by saying thank you to everybody who donated, because, you know, I had to raise the costs to cover this initial 8-episode run because we're doing it in a studio, and everybody was really, really kind enough to donate the costs of that, so that it got this up and off the ground. And I guess it's just really about why I'm feeling the need to do this, you know, and where I'm hoping that it goes, because I've been in an existential hole for quite a while, and I was doing the comedy sketches, and then I did that big film, and I just felt like I had this growing sense of dread that was creeping in, because everything, instead of like opening up and getting a bit more discourse, a bit more discussion, a bit more free, everything just seems to have really narrowed down, and everybody seems to just have really fallen into their own little silos and their own little bunkers. And I always think of it like, I used to go to Safeway with my gran, and there was the penny machine you used to get. You used to get the big penny machine, and you used to put the penny in, and the penny would go round and round and round and round and round. And I've always thought that we're sort of at the bottom of that bit where the penny's rattling round near the bottom and it's going really, really, really fast just before it like dips into the abyss. And that's sort of where I feel that we're at, and I'm just not happy with it. So I'm really doing this to see if there is an audience out there who perhaps want to move past all that nightmarish social media culture war bollocks to a place that's just, I don't know, just a bit, I don't want to go back to the halcyon days of how it used to be, but we might have to do that. Just a bit more open and a bit less of this constant hostility and less of this constant just misery that seems to just permeate everybody. You know, everybody seems to be on a hair trigger right across the board. About, you know, any topic you can put up something. I like dogs, and then, you know, you'll get the usual response. Oh, you saying you hate cats, mate? You saying you hate all cats? Like, I put up a post because I'm trying out Blue Sky after just being utterly fed up with Twitter. I'm still on Twitter, but I just put up a little post that said, I'm also over here. I'm also over on this other thing. I'm trying it out. It's quite peaceful. And the responses I got were just like aggression. Just, oh, right. Well, you're just over there with other arseholes then, aren't you, mate? They're bastards, mate. They're bastards. You're a traitor. It's just like, all I put up was that it was nice and peaceful over there, and you've kind of just proved my point. So I guess I'm just looking for a bit of peace and quiet, or, you know, just a bit more reason and sense in the world than seems to be out there. And I've got some notes and stuff about stuff that I want to talk about, but I think we'll just really be going over what the topics that I'm going to be trying to explore over the course of these 8 episodes, and maybe, you know, get some guests in who can reflect a lot of them. I've got some lined up, you know, of course scheduling's a nightmare, so I don't know when that'll be out, but to cover maybe more of the Scottish sort of aspects to it, and then we've got other people that can hopefully enlighten stuff about, like, maybe psychology and just what we're going through, because it's been a mental 12 years. It's been a social experiment that's been forced upon us, and I don't think we've really come to terms with what that's done to us. I mean, we can see the ramifications of it all around us, but I don't think we're really taking stock of how we're supposed to live in a world where all this stuff is just getting beamed into our skulls all the time, daily. And you can really see it in people who are terminally online, who don't regiment their social media intake. And you can just see it's like a feedback loop, man. It's just they get all that, and because negativity's, reinforced and encouraged on these things, you get all that extreme negativity just getting fed into you, and then just you feed it right back out. And then it just comes in and out and in and out. And it's, almost like everybody's just been programmed by this mental fucking thing that I don't think we're evolved to have. But yeah, so it's going to take us a little minute to find our feet with this. As I said, this is pretty new for me. So I think, we're just going to take it easy. We're just going to take it nice and steady and slow. I'm going to put as little pressure on myself as possible because I'm a nervous wreck trying to talk to a camera. Normally, it's just lines and wigs, actual lines, not drugs. I'm sober. And I have been for 6 years, which doesn't help when you're living in a mental dystopian hellscape. I've got nothing to numb it with. I just have to live here. It's horrible. So yeah, we're going to be talking, I think, about social media, about capitalism, about human beings as consumers, because that's another thing that really impacts a lot of this stuff, because it doesn't feel like we're even human beings anymore. And I don't even know, or I would be hard pressed to really talk about or really understand what that even means in this sort of environment, because all it is just buy shit. And that's what everything is geared towards. Just buy shit all the time. And it's just, I guess it's a quest, right? I guess we can look at this as a quest for sound cunts. If I had a guy with hairy feet and a big guy who I just hoped wasn't a pedo, I would definitely go and, go on the quest to unplug all this social media nonsense and save the world. But I don't think that's an option. Oh, and we'll also be talking about, the future. The future's coming at us like a bullet train. And if we don't get our shit together, then I don't really think it'll matter if we get a hold of anything, because we'll probably all be dead. And that might be a positive outcome. I don't know. And then artificial intelligence, of course. There was a thing, right here. There's a clip that got released last week. Oh, I don't know when this is coming out. So at some point in the past, it got released. And it was of Nicola Sturgeon, right? It's just a short clip of Nicola Sturgeon. And she looked ancient, right? She looked like a corpse that had just been dragged out of the coffin. And you had so many people who were just like, oh, look at this. Oh, that's what being a horrible bitch does to you. That's what being a cow does to you. Oh, you can see her soul shining through her face. And there's so many people just believing it and believing it and believing it. And I watched it and I'm like, something's wrong with that. And I could see it in the hair. There was that glitch. And I was like, oh, that's just the age filter from Instagram and TikTok. And it was just the age filter from Instagram and TikTok. And yet you had so many people who just believed it because they wanted to believe it. And that's just an inconsequential, tiny little, doesn't really matter throwaway thing. But it really struck me when I saw that, just how fucking devastating the next few years are going to be in terms of being able to communicate with people, being able to talk to people, when everybody is in their own little version of reality that is almost impenetrable for a lot of people. And it's just brutal. But yeah, so at some point we'll be talking about that. And I've said we need to talk about Trump, so I guess I'm going to flip to the other page and we're going to talk about Trump. As much as I don't want to talk about Trump, but don't worry, I'm not going to cry on camera like all these other people, which was just... There was no need for that. Like, things are bad enough. Like, why do you have to get the camera out and bawl your eyes out on, you know? It's just terrible. I can't believe it. I can't... As you're squishing, like, the water in your eyes. I just can't believe this president. I mean, it sucks, right? It genuinely sucks, but stop making it worse. But I was ill when I was supposed to record this episode. And I'm glad I was ill because that happened just after the election, and if I'd have done this just after the election, I probably would have had different takes. But I've had a week or so of everybody's hot takes on this issue. So, you know. And that's quite funny because you have... I was about 20 minutes in to looking at all the Trump stuff when I woke up on a Wednesday morning, I think it was the election, or the results of the election. And it was about 20 minutes, and that's all I needed to be like, I've already had enough of this. I'm done with everybody's opinion on this matter. And it literally just happened. And I think that's just the speed at which everybody feels the need to proclaim to the world that they know the answers, you know. And a lot of the hot takes about that, funnily enough, coincided with whatever that individual person's particular brand of bullshit was. They, you know, if Kamala had just believed the things that I believed, then that would never have happened. And it's just like, come on, man. And they're cheering Musk on. This is the other thing. So many of these same people are like cheering on Elon Musk like he's some sort of saviour. And it just, again, it highlights how full of shit everybody is, but just the fractured nature of the reality we're living in, where you have someone like him who has shown himself to be, by his own actions, just either the greatest Bond villain of all time or the world's biggest fucking idiot. He seems like a totally unhinged person. And he's also a terrible fucking businessman, but that's beside the point. Nobody really wants to focus on that. But he made the Tesla, mate. Yep, and we all know how that's going. Oh, actually, yeah, I got just as a highlight before I came out, I got I saw what he had tweeted because Trump's putting him in at the Department of Government Efficiency. And this is what Musk said. All actions of the Department of Government Efficiency will be posted online for maximum transparency. Do you believe that for a second? No. Anytime the public thinks we are cutting something important or not cutting something wasteful, just let us know. What, are you going to conduct government via a poll on fucking Twitter? Like, what the fuck? This is a guy who's going to have such an impact on so many people's lives, and yet he's fucking he's treating government as if it's fucking social media. That's no reactions as someone who has the best interests of the American working people at heart. We will also have a leaderboard for most insanely dumb spending of your tax dollars. This will be both extremely tragic and extremely entertaining. I mean, that's a fucking idiot. And you've got people who, you know, lionise him. You know, the type of people who would gladly suck his cock and then turn around and go, but it's the gays, mate. It's the gays in the schools. It's a problem. Fucking, it's mental. Everything's fucking mental. Why do I think Trump won? Not that my opinion matters or anything. Well, it's probably going to coincide with my particular brand of bullshit. I'm just kidding. I think he won for a lot of reasons. And I think, you know, social media and the misinformation, the disinformation, the severe lack of trust in mainstream media, which they're doing themselves absolutely no favours, but we'll get to that in a minute, is another, you know, it's a core part for me. And you can point to all the niche issues that you want, but when you actually look at what the Democrats, you know, were running on, they were basically just trying to ape the Republicans. You had loads of Democrats who were like pro border, ones who were totally, against the trans thing. They were just trying to ape the Republicans. And so I think that, a lot of that argument that it was just in these issues that won it. If she'd have just jettisoned the thing that I don't like, I think the outcome would have been pretty much similar, because she just wasn't a good candidate. And they limited themselves on the timescale of it, and that's Biden's fault. But whatever. But speaking of the media, and I think this is a good point, because this struck me, and it's, again, another reason that I was glad I didn't come in here earlier, was you had all these liberals, right, your centre-right and your centre-left liberal sort of commentators and journalists, and I didn't see any of them crying, but I imagine they did so, and they were just, pouring their heart out about how terrible this is. How could it possibly have happened? How could it possibly have happened? And then a few short days after that, you had the whole hooliganism stuff that kicked off in Amsterdam, the football stuff. And these same individuals just fell over themselves to basically punt out a particular piece of propaganda about all that, instead of reporting, a nuanced understanding of what actually happened. And I'm just looking at that going, how the fuck can you people who fucking should know that misinformation played a massive part in why Trump won in the first place, then just go and do fucking your own misinformation and propaganda, encouraging people not to fucking trust you just a few days later? It's fucking mental, man. I don't know what the answers are. And that's another reason why I'm here, is to try and at least figure out if there is an ability to get answers, if there is some way that, people can talk to each other again. Because everything is so divided, everything is so polarised, and it is just shite. And because we're always just a few short years behind America, that, I think we can, if we don't get our shit together, I think we can look forward to second Brexit, whatever that's going to be. So another thing about the Elon stuff is that so many people who are cheering him on, right, and cheering on the way he really took it to the wokes, mate. He took it to the wokes, because that's the ultimate, that's the ultimate overriding factor of everything these days. Seems to be, if it goes one way or the other. Another reason I'm here, get past all that shit if I can. But these people who because Elon Musk is all about the free speech and all that, he's not really, but because he says he's about the free speech and all that, they completely and utterly, people who cheer him on and all that, completely and utterly have no interest or no desire to understand just how powerful he is, how powerful he's going to be, and the glee in which people were cheering on the Trump victory. I get having criticisms of what happened. I get, voicing your own hot takes and all the rest of it. But there were so many people who were gleeful that Trump won, just because it made the libs cry, just because you had your liberal tears. And to me, that, that's quite a fucking horrible way to act. It's quite a spiteful way to act, because of the power that Trump's going to get, and because of the scale of that power. And do I think it's going to be a total, going to descend into a Mad Max or a Handmaid's Tale sort of dystopia? I don't think so. But I think after 4 years of Trump and the power he's got, president, he's got both houses as well, he's got the Supreme Court, it's not going to be good. And a lot of people are going to get hurt. We're probably going to feel the ramifications of it in some way, but, in Britain, we're at least some way detached, even if we do follow them in whatever foreign policy Trump is going to go for. But a lot of people are really going to get fucking hurt. And I think a bit of compassion in that sort of realm is needed now more than ever. And that's not to say that, your super rich fucking liberal wankers don't take a share of the blame. Of course they fucking do, They've essentially dug themselves into their own hole and proved that they're unable to get out of it, and proved that they're not really willing to tackle the inequality and tackle the problems that 40 years of fucking neoliberalism has caused. I mean, America's basically us on steroids. our society has been, they've sucked the bone marrow out of everything that used to form what we would call society. And, even we are seeing the fucking devastation and the ramifications of that. And America is just miles worse. I watch all those, sometimes for peace and calm, I watch those videos of just people driving through like American cities. And you see them, and it's just like rows and rows of zombies because of the fentanyl crisis. It is like something out of a dystopian fucking film from like the 80s. It's truly horrible, and that's not occurring in just one place. That's occurring all over America, and nobody is serious over there about tackling these root causes. And then, because you're not serious about doing that, you look at people who turn to someone like Trump because maybe they're hard up, maybe the economy's not going well for them and they don't really pay attention to politics. And I don't want to say you can't blame them because everybody bears some sort of responsibility, but it's understandable in a way because everything's just fucking shit. Although, having said that, I watched the documentary about the Trump stuff because I was only vaguely aware of all the shit that he got up to because, again, I go through phases of not wanting to pay attention to anything. And I watched a documentary about him trying to overturn the 2020 election, and I just didn't realise how fucked that was. Like, the scale of it, of what he was doing to try and steal that back. Because he tried to intimidate Republican governors to just give him some votes from somewhere, just conjure up some magic votes. He completely and utterly created his own little electoral group for certain states that were overriding what the actual votes would have been. And then, of course, he led everybody to the fucking Capitol and tried to overturn things that way. And I was watching it, and funnily enough, the single person who saved American democracy back then was fucking Mike Pence. Of all people, Trump's vice president, Mike Pence, a fucking maniac of his own right, and he was ready to do he's the one who's in charge of reading the counts and everything, and saying who has become president, and he was ready to read all this stuff, and they'd funneled in the secret elector stuff, and it was at that moment that the Capitol got fucking stormed and everything got held off and everybody came back in afterwards. And I was watching this thinking, is that the sole reason that Trump didn't manage to steal the election? Because Mike Pence saw fucking people storming the Capitol building with fucking AR-15s and thought, even for me, this is a bit fucking much, lads. I think what could have happened if Trump hadn't actually have done that, maybe he would have stayed in office. But yeah, the scale of that, and to vote for someone who basically stands against all the things that these MAGA people claim to want to uphold, American democracy and freedom, and you're going to vote for a guy who basically just took a big gigantic shit on all of it. But again, I think that just highlights the polarisation, the lack of a shared reality that we're all living in, and just the inability of people to come to a consensus about events. But anyway, I think that's enough about America. It's doing my nut in talking about it. So I think I'll nearly wrap up for this one. But just talk a little bit about. I've written human evolution. Yeah, I don't think we're evolved to have social media, and I've been thinking about that for a bit. Maybe do a full episode on the social media stuff, but just like human beings haven't really evolved for like 100,000 years, right? I think that's roughly, give or take a couple of tens of thousands of years. That's roughly where we are. You take a human being from 100,000 years ago, we're pretty much the same, right? And we've been evolved to have these tiny little groups. We're hunters and gatherers, and yet they've given us devices where you've got billions of people essentially just getting fucking beamed into your skull every day. It's no wonder we're fucked. It's no wonder we're fucked. And what that does to your consciousness as well. Because mine's isn't great. And I can feel it. I've said this before. I can feel it. Right? It's like a tick in the back of my head. Like if I stay away from this stuff and then you jump back on, you can feel just the way in which you're getting manipulated, the way in which the algorithms are just like forcing you down certain paths and certain tunnels. And then I can feel myself getting so fucking angry at everything for no fucking reason, you know? It is mental. I've also, if anybody wants to sponsor the podcast, you're more than welcome to do that. And if Puka Pad wants to sponsor the podcast, I'd really appreciate that, because I love Puka Pads, and I've got about 50 of these in the house. They're all filled with shite, but they're good to write on. So yeah, I think we'll just wrap up there. Just a little ramble, and we'll sort of see where we go from here, and see if we can tackle topics that can get me out of the mess. I'm really just here as a sort of therapy session for myself, to try and talk my way out of my despair, and really chart a course forward, and see if I can get my creative juices flowing again. And maybe this will be the kickstart I need. Maybe just even coming in here and doing this is what I need to start doing more stuff. Maybe do more comedy sketches and stuff like that. But we'll see. I've set up a Patreon for the pod, Tickling the Void on Patreon. If you want to just try and help us get self-sustaining, we've funded for 8 episodes, but it'd be great if we could at least cover the costs of episodes after that, and we can sort of keep it going if there's an audience for this. And I think I'll end on a happy note. And I was thinking about this. I was struggling the other night, really struggling, right? I get like anxiety in the supermarkets and all the rest of it. And I came back to the house and I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I sat down in a darkened room, got my earphones out, and I just put like a calming musical playlist on. And it was good, just zoning out, just absolutely letting your brain do all that brainy shit that we don't really allow it to do when you're flicking through that all day. And then I had the bright idea of listening to choir music. So I just sat in a darkened room, just listening to choir music, like covers of like popular songs and stuff. And I found myself getting a wee bit teary, But I think there's something in that. And I'm going to mull on that further. And it was just the community aspect, the choir music, just the combination of all those voices. And you never really see anybody depressed at a choir, like a happy choir, You never really see anybody depressed. And I was just thinking, like, if you can jettison the religious aspects of it and just get everybody into like a church once a week for 45 minutes to listen to choir music, mandatory, it'd have to be mandatory, then I think we'd probably be in a better place. I don't know. Go listen to some choir music and I'll get going. Right, this has been Tickling the Void, inaugural episode of the Shawnee Boy podcast. Me just rambling shite, trying to get this thing going. I guess I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Yo, I'm in the light at the end of the tunnel. Paper stacks, yeah, I got them in the bundles. Harry Potter breaking bread with the muggles. They said I wouldn't make it, now they looking puzzled. They said I wouldn't take it, I'd go and hustle. Get the bag, it ain't never getting fumbled. In the jack, but we came up from the bottom.